Welcome back. And now it's time to do another demo. In this demo, we're going to be playing with the performance service. And in the process, we're going to combine this demo with a demo where we show you capacity related information. So let's take a look. Now we're going to start with the performance service. So in the lecture, we've mentioned that when you take a look at your cluster, by default, you have a service called the performance service. And this service is enabled by default. Here you can see it is enabled. Once again, you can click on edit. I've mentioned you don't want to disable it, but you could. And again, nothing says that you have to go with a two-way mirror. So for example, one of the things that I could choose is obviously a different policy. So maybe just to show you something, I'm going to change it to RAID 5. Now in this case, remember that object will go through a reconfiguration. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to show you an example of reconfiguration. Let's see if we can catch it on time. Now here I can see all the different objects that I have. And one of them is the stats DB object. We've mentioned earlier that the system is now creating new components, copying the data, and then it's going to erase the original components. So maybe I get lucky. Again, maybe I can see this on time, maybe not. If we don't, not the end of the world. So let's take a look. That I may not be able to show you this, but in any event, remember, it is an object. It is a two-way mirror object by default. And as we speak, I decided to change it from RAID 1 to RAID 5, which again would save me space. Now, initially, again, that object will use twice the space. Well, I don't think this is going to, of course, update in time. Now, having said that, let's go back again to the performance service. Now, we've mentioned we have charts at the cluster level, at the host level, and also at the VM level. So let's start with one VM. Remember here, my VMs don't have an operating system. They don't have any applications. And again, they're not generating any IO. So at the VM level, I could choose performance. Remember, performance under vSAN. And as we mentioned earlier, you have all sorts of charts. So notice you have a tab for VM and a tab for virtual disks. And I don't have to necessarily go with the default time range. I can change that as well. Here you can see charts related to read and write IOPS, read and write latency, and again, the same thing for throughput. Now I could go to virtual disks. And obviously if I have more than one disk, I could be very specific. And here you have charts related to IOPS. When you take a look, now I'm going to go to a host. I'm going to go to monitor. And when I scroll down, I'm going to click on performance. Now here you see what they were showing in the book. So if you take a look, I can always go to IO Insight. We mentioned this is a new feature. And if you take a look, here you can see that you have the ability to pick one VM or more than one. Now, if you take a look, the idea here is I would choose one of those VMs, create an instance, and then specify how long I want to run that for. Now, before I go there, remember in class, we're using vMNIC3 for vSAN. So once again, I can see throughput at the physical NIC layer. If you take a look, I can see any errors potentially, whether I'm dropping packets. So it's not just statistics about the disks. Again, we have it also for networking. And if you take a look, remember each host has only one disk group. Realistically, you could have more than one. And again, you can be very specific and choose either the cache disk or the capacity disk. Now I want to go to the cluster. And when I go to the cluster, once again, here is performance, not to be confused with performance diagnostics. Now, I'm going to go to IO Insight here. And let's run this for a couple of minutes. Once again, You can tell it again what to select. And if you think about it, here's where you specify the duration for your instance. Now, no way, of course, I would be sitting here for 10 minutes. But if you think about it, that's how you set this up. Now, here is what you see, whether or not you have different VMs. And again, these are new VMs, which, by the way, are related to a new feature in clustering 7OPD1. So these are not necessarily the ones that I'm showing you here. So we've mentioned we have charts all over the place. Once again, latency-related charts, IOPS-related charts, throughput-related charts, and also congestions. Now, we talked about capacity. And when it comes to capacity, remember, you select the cluster and you look for the section on vSAN. Here's capacity. Now, here's capacity usage and capacity history. Now, for obvious reasons, the space utilization is not growing, so there's nothing to show you there. But here you can see that my vSAN data store is 200 gigs. Currently, I have 190 gigs free. And the system says, hey, if you're going to create VMs and the VMs are going to be two-way mirrors, you have 95 gigs or effective free space. That changes when I choose, again, a different policy. If I choose RAID 5, this should increase. There it is. That's what I was saying during the lecture. And here you have the breakdown when it comes to how the space is being used. Now, again, this will change significantly. If, for example, here in class, you enable iSCSI and you create iSCSI lawns, which are really objects, or for that matter, the same principle when it comes to file service. What else can I show you? Let's see, we talked about capacity. Here we've mentioned that you could enable operations and host rebuild reserve. So notice from the monitor tab, you click on configure. This will again take you to the configure tab. You can do this also from the configure tab. So notice again, you could enable one or both from here. And that pretty much takes care of this second demo. When you go back to work, if you have a cluster, go take a look at what you actually see. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Have fun.